Harriet Tubman was one of the most influential women of the 19th century. She risked her life and her freedom to help others escape from their lives of turmoil as slaves during the Civil War. As she was assisting slaves to escape, she established a series of safe houses and passages from north to the south. She called this the Underground Railroad, of which she was the conductor. Through her work with the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman brought attention to the ethical dilemmas involving slavery and helped bring about the abolition of slavery altogether. Harriet Tubman was born into slavery in approximately 1816. At a young age, most of her siblings were sold to other slave owners. In 1849, her owner, Edward Brodess, was planning on selling her and her brother, but suddenly died a week before they were set to be sold. His death brought uncertainty over all the lives of the slaves on the plantation. Harriet decided that even if she was caught, trying to escape was her best option. In September 1849, she set off for the north. She traveled under the cover of darkness and followed the North Star. Along the way, she was assisted by 3 unnamed Quaker abolitionists who found her safe passage along with transportation. The route that she took is not completely clear. However, it is reasoned that she traveled north along the Choptank River through Delaware to northern Pennsylvania. When she crossed the Mason-Dixon line, she found work as a domestic servant and went on to being a cook and a seamstress. As she started to frequently travel between north and south, she established a safe passageway between several houses and people who were willing to help. In one of the first groups of slaves that she took back to the south, there was an older woman named Isabella, or she is better known as Sojourner Truth. She was born into slavery in 1797 and had lived all her life working for a man named John Dumont. Harriet rescued her and 7 of her 9 children on that trip, and Isabella became one of Harriet's greatest admirers. Later on, despite her age, she started rescuing groups of slaves on her own. Over the years, she and Harriet became very good friends and were influenced greatly by one another. In a few years, something called the Fugitive Slave Act was finally starting to be enforced after being passed in 1850. It stated that if the local government should find slaves, they should seize and return them to their masters. It also imposed penalties upon everybody who aided in their escape. In response to this, the people of the Underground Railroad rose to the occasion and the numbers of slaves they were rescuing grew. They risked their lives and triumphed over their oppressors while they were doing what was right. Finally, on January 1st, 1863, President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. This executive order changed the legal status of more than 3.5 million African American slaves. This proclamation ordered that slaves in 10 U.S. states are freed and was the first step of the official abolishment of slavery. 3 years after, the 13th Amendment was passed and all U.S. slaves were freed. Harriet Tubman was the beginning of it all. She started the civil rights movement that will be known for thousands of years to come by doing what she thought was just. She was the one that made people stop and really think about the ethics of slavery. She forced others to realize that slavery is not right and it needed to end. Harriet accomplished so much in her lifetime that the human race is forever indebted to her. Her years in the Underground Railroad, she rescued over 3,000 slaves by herself. When combined with countless others who continued her work after she retired, the Underground Railroad helped free over 300,000 slaves. At the end of her life, Harriet had done so much for her people and has influenced hundreds of others over a stretch of almost 200 years. She had a childhood that most of us could not even imagine. However, she did not let her tragic past affect her spirit and drive, and even now, people are still looking to her as an inspiration. She has made people want to fight for equal rights and was the first step in ending prejudice towards women as well as racism and discrimination towards the African American people.